quick welcome to anyone that's joining us now live or anyone that is watching our YouTube. Thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Tash. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the program director for No More Under. We are a non-profit that supports equitable access to water safety tools, education, and swimming lessons. And we are so pumped today to be talking with Erica for our Learn More series. We're recognizing Pride Month this month for June. So we are so excited to have Erica. She is a collegiate swimmer. She is an Olympic silver medalist. She is a supporter of the LGBTQ plus community and creating a safer space for athletes all around the world. And Erica, I would love for you to give a little more introduction about yourself because we are so excited and thankful to have you here.
My name is Erica Sullivan. I go by she, her pronouns, and I just finished my freshman year at University of Texas, Austin. I'm a radio, television, film major, and I was on the Olympic team last year where I won silver in the first inaugural 1500 meter freestyle. And I am in the queer community. I'm a lesbian. I've been out since I was a senior in high school, and I've kind of become a role model for athletes in sport.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. And we're so thankful for that. And it's so exciting to have more people coming into that space and conversation, right? Like it's about time that people feel comfortable being themselves and coming out. So I would love, Erica, if we can just dive right in. You know, you have been a strong swimmer for a lot of your life, but I would love to learn just a little bit of, like, how did you get into swimming? Where did it start for you?
Yeah, so my dad was a swimmer at the University of Wisconsin. He was a collegiate athlete, and he actually did not want me to go into swimming. I think he knew about the early morning practices and never wanted to drive a kid to the early morning practices. So his rule was we're going to put her in swim lessons until she can do the 4 strokes, and I can have a couple beers while she's playing in the pool. That was the game plan. It was very selfish. And then I got in the water and I just got hooked. And then he ended up driving me to the 5 a.m. morning practices.
Yeah, I think that's such a common thing, right? When swimmers retire, and especially, elite swimmers, your dad was a college swimmer, they retire and they go, right, if I have a child, they are never swimming because I don't want to have to get back up again. I know I've said that.
I said that too. I said my kid is not swimming.
Yeah. It's so funny. So Erica, you've done open water, which to people, less familiar with the world of swimming, open water is maybe doing a race in a lake, or sometimes it can be in an ocean. Erica, you've done world championships in open water, but then obviously exceeded fantastically in the pool. So what's your favorite? How did you get into one, maybe choose the other? What was that story?
I think we just kind of went with whatever ended up happening. I feel like with the world's team in 2019, they ended up selecting it a year before. So I found out that I missed it in the pool team. So I was like, okay, I still want to go. So let's just go for it in open water. Made the team, but pool is always a priority, and it still is. I love the true grit behind pool. You put your face down, you race for 20 minutes. That's my favorite part about swimming. All of my closest friends are in open water. So, or at least the ones, most of them have retired now. But when I first started the sport, a lot of my role models are in open water. So that's why I love that side of the sport.
Yeah, that's so cool. The Women's History Month, we spoke with Sarah, who is the greatest ultra distance swimmer of all times, regardless of sex. Right. And that was so amazing and inspiring.
They're a different breed. I can do some distance, but I definitely get maxed out. Man, the ultra long distance swimmers who can literally go 25K, 30K plus are built differently. I could never.
Totally. So you do still open water competitions?
I did one a few months ago. I think I want to prioritize on pool a little bit more, but I'm not totally closed off to the idea of open water.
Nice. It's a bit harder in college, isn't it? Again, for anyone that is not super familiar with the swimming world, college swimming is much more pool oriented, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. And it just is really hard because open water nationals is around 2 weeks after women's NCs.
That's a hard transition. Often after NCs, you just want to take a short break, recover, rest, let your body get through all the work it's just been doing. So, but what about if we shift the conversation to the LGBTQ plus community? Do you have role models there? You're obviously a role model to a lot of people, but have you had any role models in the athletic world, swimming world?
I think that's why I decided to try to be a role model to the best of my ability in the swimming community. Is just like there weren't any, at least when I came out. Like it was very hard to find. Like you had Anna Marcella in open water from Brazil, but like in the US, you really didn't have anybody. So I think I just end up looking towards other sports. Megan Rapinoe is a big classic role model. And honestly, just like looking at those girls, you know, accepting queer soccer players with open arms was just really, really important. Tobin Heath, just that whole community in general, just not only do they fight for equal pay and pushing for, you know, women's sports and female athletics, but fighting that queer fight as well and being in the front lines of that is just really, really inspiring. So I think from an early age, like I love swimming, but I just love to watch female soccer.
Nice. Yes, that's so amazing. And women supporting women, and I mean everyone supporting everybody, right? But
Yeah.
that is so powerful. Speaking of, you know, obviously the soccer community wrapped their arms around Megan, but how was that experience for you, knowing you had a team around you, and were you supported? Were you nervous?
I was really lucky. Everyone in my community accepted me with open arms, and it wasn't, I was very, very fortunate. But like, even in that regard, I was still nervous to come out. Like, I feel like that's just such a scary thing because you don't know how they react. And I actually came out as bi first in 2016, just because I didn't really know where I stood on the spectrum. And I ended up coming out as gay like 6 months later. But everyone was so supportive of that transition, and they were so kind and accepting, and it was all good. I was very, very lucky.
That's amazing. Yeah, that is so beautiful. I read something interesting recently about, you know, it shouldn't even have to be coming out, because you should just be able to be who you are, right? And so the fact that there is so much pressure for people to come out, but hopefully, first of all, we can get to a place where people can come out without being nervous, but then eventually it shouldn't be that you have to declare anything, because you should be able to be who you are. Do you have any advice for any swimmers, whether they're college or clubs? And actually, it's not even swimming, to be fair, it's any athlete. We're sort of talking about the athletic queer community here. Do you have any advice for them in terms of those moments where you decided to come out?
Yeah, if you feel like you're in a safe space to come out and you are, you know, at a level where you're confident in your identity, where you feel like you can't like keep it in anymore, and like keeping it in is becoming a struggle, I say come out. I feel like a lot of teams nowadays are still very supportive of people, and worst case scenario, if they're not, there is a community around you who will support you, is the most supportive thing that I can say. Like, I'm fortunate enough that Texas Athletics does support me, and I do have a lot of love, but I still have my group of queer friends outside of the sport that I appreciate just as much as my team. So I think having a community in both aspects is very, very important.
Totally. Yeah. In high intensity competition, you got a silver medal at the Olympics. Do you find that being a member of the queer community at that elite level changes anything?
Not really. At least like for me, at least doing it for, you know, the reasons I did it, a lot of it was to be a role model and to be an icon and to be the person who wasn't seen by a lot of these younger girls and younger members of the queer community. I wanted to be that person. But by no means do I carry that stress with me whenever I step up on the blocks, or, you know, it's not much of a burden. It's just like, oh, if I do well, I do it for me, but I also want to be seen by other people.
I was naturally stalking your Instagram a little bit, and I saw you speaking to, there's sort of a stigma or a conversation around people saying that once you come out, you've limited yourself. And I think it was when you were with a partnership with, I can't remember who, sorry, but I think you probably know what I'm talking about. Can you speak to that a little bit and share what that was? Because that was really interesting to watch and to hear.
Yeah, so when I came out in 2016, 2017, and there weren't really queer people who were out and proud, there was this narrative of like, you know, once you come out, you start to go down this quest of like self-identity, and like after being, you know, within yourself for years, you tend to kind of lash out, you go overboard, and you tend to not get faster after that due to like emotional turmoil. And I don't know, I just always thought that was kind of ridiculous because I was still 16, 17 years old, felt like I hadn't peaked, and I was like, well, like, screw that. Like, I still want to be faster. Like, who gets to determine my success based on my coming out?
Totally. Oh my God. You just gave me goosebumps.
And so I just was like, screw it. And I was like, no, like, I am who I am, and my swimming is not going to dictate that. And I got faster, ended up making the national team, made Pan Pacs out, made Worlds out, made the Olympic team out, won a silver medal out.
I was going to say, I hope you finished that statement with the fact that you got a silver medal at the Olympics, which is so, so incredible. You would think having the opportunity to be somewhere safe where you're expressing yourself or your true self, that could open the door to be faster and thrive. And so let's support that narrative where when you're yourself, that's when you can do your best and be the fastest and get a silver medal like you did.
Exactly. And I just don't think like we should be promoting the narrative of like, oh, once you come out, like you're not going to get faster anymore, because then people are going to start to associate that with coming out, when in reality, sometimes when you peak, it has to do with reasons more than just sexuality. That's just interpersonal turmoil with effort. But if you want to keep getting better, it's totally possible.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. There's obviously, you know, your mental health influences your ability to race, but like you said, anyone's sexuality isn't the only reason that they're going to get better or not. You know, there's a million things that can be influenced.
Diet, recovery, sleep. There's just so many factors where it's like, who I like really isn't dictated by something.
Who I'm dating or who I'm in a relationship with is as long as it's happy and healthy, it should be nothing but supportive to you growing as an athlete. So
exactly.
Yeah, totally. So speaking of those, you know, numerous things that can influence your successes as an athlete, mental health is a big part of that. So could you speak to your journey with mental health, whether it's related to being a part of the queer community or other challenges you've faced growing up, and how you grew stronger in your mental health?
Summer of 2017, I am just coming out, starting to tell some people, half in, half out of the closet, just like don't really know where I stand in this journey. My dad passes away of esophageal cancer. And so I kind of hit this like state of shock where I wasn't really processing anything. And it was going really okay at first, but 6 months later, I think like the overwhelming sense of stress and emotion just kind of got to me. And I was just like mentally just drained, like couldn't really sleep well, wasn't eating. It's like the motivation to do anything was really just brutal. And, you know, at a time where swimming used to bring me like comfort and was my time to be like peaceful and with myself, became a chore, and it became very stressful, and it became very anxiety driven, and something that I love to do just wasn't fun anymore. And it wasn't because I had burned out in sport, but it was just because I was just so mentally exhausted and depressed and anxious, and just too many things were going on in my mind at once. So basically I told my coach, like, if it was a hard set where I could only think about swimming, I was fine. But the easier sets where you're kind of in your brain, you're looking at the black line and you have a lot of time to think, I couldn't even finish those sets anymore, just because the conscious thought in my mind was just so negative and it was so bad. And so I tell my coach, I'm like, I can't train, like I need to stop. And so he kind of freaked out a little bit, and we talked to the people at USA Swimming who connected me with the therapist in Vegas. And I really worked on my mental health, doing 3-hour sessions 2 to 3 times a week.
Wow.
For 6 months, and just really navigating everything that I pushed down over the years. And yeah, around 6 to 8 months later, I had the coping skills to be able to distinguish, like, oh, I'm having a bad depressive episode. This is how I take care of it. Oh, this is an anxiety attack. I need to breathe and count my breaths and do this. And I learned the set of skills that I needed to help me consistently train and be a better athlete. And I don't know, I just felt like I lifted a very big weight off my chest.
That is so, so amazing to hear. So you were doing, in the beginning, you were, once you were at one of your lowest points, possibly, you were doing up to 9 hours. Is that correct? I interpreted that 9 hours a week working on your mental health.
And it was exhausting. Like I would go to therapy for 3 hours. I'd get out of school because I was a senior and I had a shortened schedule. Get out of school, go to the therapist office and just sit there. And then I go from therapy to swim practice. And I had the worst practices just because I was so tired. Like, I feel like a 2-hour workout will like exhaust you, but like 3 hours of therapy is like a different kind of tired. Like you cannot, I just remember like driving to swim practice and my eyes could just barely stay open. And I would look at my coach and I'm just like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. And he was just like, just make it, like, just survive. And, after a while you get stronger and you start to comprehend all this emotion and it gets easier. And, it got to a point of like, okay, you're good at twice a week. Okay. 2 hours. Okay. An hour and a half now. And it got way more easier as it went on. But in the beginning, it was brutal.
That is so incredible. And it just shows the importance of mental health and then mental strength, right? Like you put in such hard work for your mental health, which then helped you physically succeed and go fast. That is so amazing. And those tools are incredible. It's great that USA Swimming has that and the therapists and it's so good that they're normalizing that because everyone could use that, right? But especially athletes, there is a lot going on. And for swimmers with their face down in the water, looking at the bottom of a pool, there's a lot of time.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think a lot of people realize like the mental strain that swimming takes. Like, I feel like with a lot of land sports, you can see your teammates all the time. And if you're going through something, you can really talk to someone. But like, especially a distance swimming program, like you have your head down for 2 hours at a time. And it's literally just you. And if you're not in the mind space to be able to like motivate yourself, it's not going to end well. And honestly, like I didn't even feel myself getting better. I remember like even once my therapist was like, okay, like twice a week, I remember thinking like, yo, like I'm not ready for twice a week yet. And it took until I was around 7 months in and I was like I read my journal from before I started therapy and I was like, wow, I'm actually in a lot better of a headspace now. And that was just such a motivating feeling to be like, oh my God, this is working.
Yes. Oh, that is so cool. The power of acknowledging and asking for help and even journaling, which a lot of people do, is a great form of being able to track where you were, where you are. So you lost your dad and he was a swimmer and you were finding your identity, and that's tough. That's a tough spot, but you fought hard and you came back from that, which is incredible. And I'm sure that so many young swimmers find motivation in that, both through your support for the queer community and your support for talking about mental health too, because we've got to normalize all those conversations, right? We've got to bring them all out into the open.
I agree. I honestly think like nothing should be taboo. My big thought is like, if I lived through it and it was my experience, like why keep it to myself? Why be shy about it? There's just, at that point, it creates the stigma that no one can talk about it. And like, that's the last thing I want. Like, I want to spread the narrative of like, you can have mental health issues and you can take the initiative and get help and want to get better and have it pay off and you can still be successful. Like even the days where you cannot see the light, like just keep chipping away at it because eventually that light is going to get there.
I love that. I love that so much. So have you had any moments where, like we've said, you're an incredible role model to a lot of people. Have you had any standout, beautiful moments where a young swimmer's come up to you, or is there anything that stands out that you've been like, wow, this is so cool for me to impact others?
Yeah. Big moments are just whenever someone DMs me and is like, I came out because of you. That's always a super cool one. Or actually my coach, Mitch Dalton, went to a panel or like some sort of coaching clinic a few weeks ago. And a lady actually came up to him and said, I actually realized like I was gay and I decided to come out because like seeing how vocal Erica was about everything. So like, make sure you tell her like, thank you and I appreciate it. And like stuff like that's just crazy because like honestly, like I came out for selfish reasons. Like I didn't realize how successful I was gonna be when I first came out. And to realize that my coming out and my selfishness has had impact on other people more than just myself is astonishing to me, and it blows my mind every time.
That's so beautiful. Shazek has just made a comment saying that talking about your story, it helps everyone, right? And so that is so powerful. And that's the power. That's one of the beautiful things of social media. There's plenty of negatives, right?
There are a lot of negatives, but I feel like for, every 5 negative things, there's 200 good things. And unfortunately, the negative ones get brought to light more, but we can never forget about those good stories that are out there, and we just got to keep paying attention to those.
100%. That's so amazing. I can only imagine the feeling and joy that you get helping other people find confidence and happiness in themselves and their identity. I was wondering if there's anything that athletes or swimmers can do to be more supportive for the LGBTQ plus community, whether it's in their sport, in life, what can our communities be doing to support everyone?
Yeah, just honestly, like, love your teammates. I'm on a team that has a lot of queer athletes. We have 3 people who are out on our team, and we're a small team. We're a team of around 26 girls, I want to say. So 3 out of 26 is pretty big for ratio standpoints. And I feel like just make them comfortable, make them loved, make them heard. If they go by different pronouns, if they identify as non-binary, pay attention to that, respect it. It's hard, especially the first time you meet a non-binary person, to try to change the way you talk and change, she, her pronouns, they, them pronouns, but make that lasting effort, and that'll help them way more than you'll ever know. And they will appreciate it. And they may not say anything to you in front of people, but definitely behind closed doors, they'll show their gratitude.
You see some things about people saying, oh, but it's hard to learn pronouns. No. We can change that. We can learn that. That's not hard. The hard thing is for someone that doesn't feel comfortable in the community where they are. So definitely, I love that. Figure out pronouns. And what is your thought on, you mentioned at the start, your pronouns are she, her. Do you appreciate when someone asks you your pronouns? Is that a conversation and space you like to support, by creating that?
I personally am very confident in my gender identity. So if people don't ask, they usually assume, and I'm okay with it. But we do have someone who's non-binary in our team who goes by they, them pronouns. And honestly, like, sometimes, we do make a slight mistake. If you're talking really fast, someone's like, oh, wow, she did something so cool. And I feel like the one thing that Texas does really well with team culture is like a quick little tap, and it's like, hey, like they. It's like, oh, shoot, sorry, and they just correct it right away. No, no turmoil. It's just a quick, fix, and then just go on with it, keep on talking, and they correct themselves. And sometimes that's the easiest way to build a habit.
Totally. Yeah, I love that. And while you were mentioning that, I noticed Shazek pop on. So Shazek is our founder of No More Under. She has an incredible story, and she may want to ask some questions, or we may want to quickly mention that Erica is an aspiring filmmaker, and that is Shazek's background as a producer, which is super cool as well. But hi, Shazek, you want to jump in?
I just appreciate you being here, and honestly, all that you represent, in swimming and in the LGBTQIA plus community. So yeah, thank you for being here. And I think, for me, I really wanted to talk about for 2 seconds, there's been so much controversy about transgender swimmers. How do we, even as an organization, trying to balance everything, show support there, and kind of combat all of the thoughts about the competitiveness around that?
Yeah, I think a lot of the reason why people are so negatively reacting to trans women in sports is this negative connotation and negative narrative that they can just declare themselves as a trans athlete and suddenly they can swim with females. That's not true at all. And with Leah Thomas, she was on her hormonal therapy for 2 years, and she had done the time that she needed to serve. Her standard protocols, her T levels were below a certain level. She didn't break any rules. And even since her competing, more rules have been adopted to make sure that there is fairness in sport. So I think people who put their arms up about, women's sports being doomed because of the rare instance of a talented trans swimmer is it honestly just kind of targets and marginalizes such a small community. And
That's right.
It's very specific. I mean, like, how often do we see a fast trans athlete? It's so unbelievably rare. And so I think it's just people who claim that they're for women when in honesty, the people who are supporting us know nothing about college female swimming and did not care about us until this year, which is kind of upsetting. Yeah. But I think education is the most important thing, and read up about it and read the protocols. And upon reading, you will learn, like, oh my God, it's actually not that easy to compete as a trans woman at all. So yeah,
I think that's my biggest frustration is I've just heard like people saying, oh, they transitioned to be a better athlete or something. And just understanding people that are transitioning, like that is something they just want to be comfortable in their bodies. You know,
and
it has
so
nothing
much
really,
more
you know,
than just swimming. Like swimming is, at the end of the day, I love swimming. It's my life, but it's just a sport, and you know, sports really unify us, but it's not worth all the backlash that people are getting. So yeah. I think people just don't understand like the gender dysphoria that comes with that. And I mean, even I don't understand. I've never experienced gender dysphoria. So yeah, it's just got to be so hard.
Yeah. I appreciate you talking about that and speaking about it. It is, I think, more of an empathetic situation, like being empathetic with people versus the anger that's coming out. So thank you for talking about that.
Any athlete or person, but specifically we're talking about swimming, that's going through that, they have so many other challenges going on, so many that we can't, and we can't, if we're not a trans person, we can't identify or understand that. And so to bring out,
I struggled with school and swim at the same time this semester. Put on top of a gender identity crisis on top of that, oh boy, it'd be so hard.
Right. And so it's like you said, Erica, it's taking the time, learning, educating, getting pronouns right. And if we get them wrong, it happens, but acknowledge it and sort of adjust, fix it and keep going, and just creating a space where we don't need hate. There's enough problems going on. Seriously. There's enough.
Totally agree.
And speaking of the juggle, I'm super curious of how you juggle. Like, are you making films? Like, where are you, as far as that goes?
Right now I'm in like a learning phase, taking all my gen ed film classes, Intro to World Cinema, Media and Society. But I'm trying to get a certificate in creative writing so I can screenplay write a lot more. That's the real goal, screenplay writing and directing. But cool. Haven't been able to write a full-length movie since COVID. Just when I didn't have anything to do at all, I was able to write a full movie. But since then, it's just been like short films here and there.
I mean, you say that, but short films are the way to go. I feel like that's when you cut your teeth and you go to festivals, and that's
That's
awesome.
Get down 40 minutes and just like sit and type until something happens.
I love that. That's awesome. Yeah. I was curious how you juggle even doing that and the Olympics and school and all of that. Like, do you have a time management thing or?
I do. I have terrible time management. I think staring at a black line, your mind tends to wander. And sometimes while I'm swimming, I get this idea that like, I really don't want to lose, or I'm like, oh, this is something. And it won't leave me until I write it down. So I get home from practice. I just kind of like click away for 20 minutes straight. And I put it on the burner until I'm motivated to come back to it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's so cool. I feel like the swimming time with your eyes on the black line is kind of like where someone else might get inspiration in the shower. You as a swimmer, you're getting it in the pool.
There's just a lot of time with your head down with like just the water in your ears, and it does something crazy to you.
We'll let Erica get on with her day. She already did a big training session this morning. I was asking her what she was doing this morning. It sounded very tough and gave me a little bit of PTSD back to my training days.
That'll do it. That's a set that'll really give you some PTSD.
How long did you swim this morning, Erica, as in distance wise? What was your total distance?
I probably hit 6K this morning, and then I went to a weights and I lifted a little bit, but the main set was a 4,000, so long course will really get to you.
That'll do it.
Oh yeah.
that'll get you pretty tired. So we are certainly so thankful that you created space in your day to talk to us. We know, as we've just heard, you have so much going on in your life. And so we really appreciate you sharing your story, sharing your advice, and just continuing to grow the conversation and support for our LGBTQIA plus community. So thank you so much, Erica. Your story is amazing. We wish you the best for the rest of your college career and swimming career and everything. We all follow you on Instagram, and we'll continue to fangirl you. So
of course, thank you for the support. Thank you for having me. Whenever you guys need anything, please let me know. I'd love to hop on and do these again. You know, water safety is so important in today's society. So raising awareness for that is very important. So thank you guys.
Thank you so much. Again, really appreciate it. And good luck. She didn't say the film career, but I'm going to throw that in. Good luck with your, when you have a short, send it over for sure.
For sure.